hello, this is me. This is a slide about me. I've done this a lot in the last couple of years, hundreds of times. And there are three things that inform the knowledge that I'm here to share with you all tonight. One of them is doing 500 one-on-one negotiations in the last couple of years. Another one of them is I got to train with this really, really great negotiator called Chris Voss. He wrote a book called Never Split the Difference, and I got to go to a workshop with him, spend some time with him in person, do some follow-up meetings with him in person. It was really cool. And as well, I used to work at a company called TripleByte. So anything I say here tonight probably has something to do with those three things. Okay, great. So we already have somebody who has posted a Q&A. Thank you, Sam, for leading the charge. Anybody else that wants to be like Sam, please do. We want to post questions in the Q&A portion, because if you put them in the Q&A function, then other people can vote on them. And then we're going to answer the upvoted questions at the end of the presentation. So I'm going to try to get to stuff that's said in the chat as we go, but I will definitely get to the stuff that's posted as a question. So if it's like, kind of based on exactly what I'm saying, me or Daniel will try to catch it. But that's pretty much how we're going to do it. So post and upvote the questions and questions. And we're going to talk for 30 to 40, and then we're going to go Q&A for the end. And that's the whole thing. Afterwards, we're going to keep the party going on Discord. We got a soft rollout for our Discord. I'm going to answer anything you all want and share some resources and keep the party going. So next. For half the people that didn't come, or maybe it was 30%, I don't remember. A good amount of people didn't come last time. So we're going to cover what we talked about last time. First things first. Some of y'all that did come in the chat. Okay, if I don't know if I should negotiate, should I negotiate? This is as easy as the questions are going to get tonight. Thank you, Alex. Yes, 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 good. Yes, yes. Why you should negotiate? From the obvious gift of more money and vacations and food and nice things for your significant others, negotiating is good because it's a skill that is not going anywhere. And if you're able to get good at it now as an engineer, the most valuable skill set in the world right now in 2022, by the course of doing it over the next 10 years, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars between you being, an advanced negotiator and somebody that's too scared to do it. So that's why you should negotiate, to learn. Not naming a number first. That's exactly right. Worst case, they say no. Always negotiate. That's exactly right. We don't want to say a number first because we never know what is on the other side of the table. So I have seen a candidate get $121,785 signing bonus. And I wondered, what would he have asked for if he had asked for a signing bonus from the company? Probably like $40,000 if he was feeling, really confident that day. But he doesn't know what they're willing to offer. So we kind of want to think of it like poker. In poker, it's beneficial to be the last person to act, to have everybody else bet before you decide what to do. The same thing is true in negotiation. You don't say a number first simply because their number could be a lot higher than what you would say. Okay, cool. And that goes all the way up until getting an offer. So until a company presents me with an offer, the best case scenario and the only scenario you all should be learning is I do not say a number first. The first time numbers are said are when they give me that offer. Okay, getting multiple offers is important. It's not the end all be all. I've had 13 successful negotiation clients since I started here at interviewing.io. I just started doing it 8 weeks ago. So about 60 to 70% of them have only had one offer. So you don't need 2 offers or more, but it helps. It really helps. And usually the people who get higher deltas, as in they get more cash from their initial offer to their final offer, they usually do have more than one offer. Good. Offers don't get pulled for negotiating. They get pulled because you're deemed a risk. So anybody in the chat, does anybody remember how much money has a company spent on a candidate by the time the candidate makes it to the offer stage? Yeah, definitely a lot. Yeah, exactly. 30K is a conservative guess. So if they have spent $30,000 on Sam They have invested $30,000 in Sam. So for them to say that was a bad investment, this will be a sunk cost, Sam has to do something completely insulting or rude to the company. So yeah, me and Aileen have stories for the kind of offers that get pulled, but as you can all trust from the data, out of the thousands of offers that I've seen, 2 have gotten pulled, 2, and they were both egregious behavior in both cases. Okay, proactively control the time problem. So time is more likely to kill a deal than money. That's a fact. Exploding offers are annoying. They mess things up. So how do you proactively control the time problem? Very simple. It sounds so simple, it sounds stupid. Before the company gives you something, tell them when you want them to give it to you. That's it. So before I have a company give me an offer, at the onsite, I tell them, hey, just so you know, I'm going to finish my onsites by the end of July. I'm going to collect offers in the first week of August, and then I'm going to make a decision shortly thereafter. That's the perfectly structured job search, and that's what everybody should aim for. If you don't get it, that's fine, but everybody should aim for that. How to ask for more time. Aileen has some really good language in her blog post for that one, and I will share her blog post afterwards in the Discord if you all haven't seen it. But it's pretty simple, you know, hey, this is a really big decision for me. I'm going to need to think about this with my family, and there's a lot of factors that I want to consider. So would I be able to extend this deadline to blank? Doing that over and over and over is really as simple as it gets. So if you proactively control it, though, going back to tell the company when you want to do the thing, when you want to do it, before they give it to you, if you do that, then you don't really have to ask for more time. So that's another reason to proactively control it. Okay, this one we learned in the last webinar. So how come we don't want to share details about our other interviews with recruiters? Who remembers that one? Yeah, an exploding offer is an offer with a really tight deadline. Like, hey, Eric, here's an offer, decide by tomorrow. You all remember this one. You all remember this one. Yes, exactly. Spencer, good job. If I tell Google, and the Google recruiters are very smart, like, hey, Spencer, where else are you interviewing? You know, like, I know a lot about these other companies, so I can like help you. You know, they say things like that. So Spencer would say, you know, I have some interviews with, you know, a couple different companies, but nothing solidified yet. I'll let you know before I make any big decisions. Because what action can a recruiter take on what Spencer just said? Nothing. That's the idea. But if Spencer says, oh, I'm actually interviewing with Netflix next week, and I'm interviewing with Zoox the week after that, then the week after that, the recruiter says, hey, how'd that onsite go with Zoox? How'd that onsite go with Netflix? And if Spencer failed, well, then he has to lie, or he tells the recruiter that he failed. And if the recruiter knows that you have 0 other interviews, then you don't really have any leverage. So they can maybe give you a lowball offer and maybe even give you an exploding deadline. And then that's the worst of all the scenarios. So we want to protect the information about other interviews until it's time to bargain. So we're going to get into bargaining later and when that happens. But just for most of you, don't say anything about other interviews that's actionable until the very, 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 very end. And we'll get into more about that later. The worst case scenario for exploding offers. So exploding offers are essentially a company playing hardball with you. So if they're going to play hardball with you, you can play hardball with them. And at the very least, it's important to know what your options are if you're going to play hardball. So we're talking about reneging on an offer. So if you ask for more time and they don't give it to you, it's not that big of a deal to sign an offer and then end up not joining the company. It's like kind of defense against the dark arts. Like if they're fighting dirty, sometimes you have to too. And you don't really need to feel bad about walking it back after a company does an unsavory tactic like that. And if it's a big company, you probably will have nothing to worry about. There are no real consequences. There are no legal consequences. There's just the moral dilemma of like feeling bad about it. So that's workshop 1. Now we're all beginner negotiators. At the very least, some of us may already be advanced, but the goal is to get everybody to be advanced by the end of this workshop. So that's what we're going to do. Okay. So this is normally This is normally a 30-minute exercise. I'm not going to do this for 30 minutes. We're going to do this for maybe 3 minutes. Okay. I'm going to give you a prompt and I want you to tell me in the chat, and we're going to have a discussion, and I'm going to gather some of the answers and have people expand more on their answers. It's going to be great. So here's the scenario. I want you to tell me if it's a negotiation or not, and why. So John walks into Starbucks and he orders a coffee. Is that a negotiation? Why or why not? Okay, why is it no? It has a set price. Okay, Oliver, I'm sticking with Oliver. No, it has a set price. Yes. Okay, Sam, how come it's a negotiation? Because there's an exchange. Okay. Okay. No, Sam's taking her answer back. Okay. Is anyone else in here with any other answers than what's been said so far? No, Starbucks has leverage to deny customers. Okay. If the employer is the director. Uger, my guy. Okay. So the reason why this is a negotiation is because the definition of negotiation is not how everyone in the chat is defining negotiation. So if you said no, you are confusing bargaining with negotiation. Negotiation is the set. Bargaining is the subset. So negotiation is anything that involves an exchange and time as a dynamic. I'll give you a very easy example of why me ordering a coffee is a negotiation at Starbucks. The barista loves me, and every time I go in there, she gives me an added shot for free. Just from my behavior, I'm able to gain more value. So I'm not haggling over price, that's bargaining, but we're having an exchange and I can benefit from that. That's negotiation. So this is our definition of negotiation for tonight. It's a nice broad definition, we like that. And for bargaining is after I get an offer, after I do discovery and learn a bunch about the offer, as long as I can till after that, then I start going back and forth about pushing for more money. That's bargaining. So bargaining happens within a negotiation, but it's not the whole thing. The definition of negotiation is an exchange that has time as a dynamic. Yeah, okay. Heuristics. Good rules of thumb. If you want to be an advanced negotiator, it starts with being able to make good decisions when you reach new information. So here are 4 heuristics that can help you do that. Number 1, if it doesn't help, then don't share it. So back when we were talking about if we got an offer from a company and we got an offer from another company, how do we negotiate with the company that gave us the higher offer? Well, if it doesn't help, then don't share it, right? That might be a non-obvious case of how we can do that. So this slide it has a lot going on, but just try to track it. So the company in blue is offering $250. Company in red is offering $200. Company in blue is a public company. Company in red is a startup. Company in blue is offering L6. Company in red is offering L5. So how do we negotiate with the company in blue? We can't tell them that we have an offer of 200 because that would make us look stupid for asking for more money, right? If it's a startup company that's red, it might not help us to tell that to the public company, or it might, depending on how we frame the total comp, which we'll get to in a second. But it certainly doesn't help us to tell the company in blue that we got a lower level offer from another place. And what about the company in red? Do we want to tell them it's a public company? Because a lot of times startups get scared off. They're like, look, we can't compete with public companies. So you even telling them that this offer is from a public company is actually losing you money because they're less inclined to give you more because they bow out of the race. They're like, well, yeah, no, we can't compete with Netflix actually. So what do? You can isolate. So to isolate, this is an example where the company in blue has given us a bigger salary than the company in red. The company in red has given us more total comp. So when we negotiate with the company in red, since they've given us a lower salary, but more total comp, then we just start negotiating with salary as our first push. So this has to do with what we're framing. So the data is the same in all the cases, but we frame the data as saying, okay, we're just going to go after a piece of this because this piece is higher at this company than it is at this other company. And the same is true here. If I'm talking to a public company and if the blue company is public and the red company is private, this is a pretty sneaky trick here. I just learned this the other day. When you negotiate with the blue company, don't tell them that the red company is a privately owned startup because the total comp looks comparable. So engineers get tricked into giving information to recruiters a lot, especially when their company is like a Google, and Google is like, hey, we need to see your offer details. Sure, if you want to negotiate, that's fine. Just send me your offer letter. And people are just giving it up. But we can actually approach this differently and say, here's my offer. It's for $470,000 total comp, and that's what I'm comfortable sharing. Like, that's a way to frame the data that actually benefits you. It's not giving away all the information. So if it doesn't help, don't share it. And you can frame the data however you want, and frame however much of it, and share however much of it or how little of it you want to share. Yeah, Scene, we should just say startup and not Acme Corp. You're right. That's true. Yes, Sam, you could just say that. Okay, why is The Sopranos a good show? In part because, the writing is good. And why is the writing good? In part because it's more about what they don't say. They don't say that they're going to kill one of the characters in the show. They're going to say that, he's going to miss work tomorrow. So in the same way, in negotiation, a lot of times it's about what you don't say. And here are a couple examples. So recruiters oftentimes are trying to gauge how likely you are to be closed after they give you an offer. And when they ask this question, how do you feel about the offer? Is this a good offer? Are you going to take it? It's more about what you don't say than what you do. Also, before you've agreed on comp, when a recruiter asks, does a start date of 3 weeks from today work? That's another one where it's more about what you don't say. And my favorite one here is, if your first push contains no numbers, this is a very sneaky trick because you're essentially getting the company to do your work for you. They're bumping up the comp without you ever having asked for a specific number yet, which is genius because you've essentially already got a run on the board because you went for a single and now you still have the bases loaded and you can still go for more singles. Okay, we're going to extend that analogy later, but just for now, if your first push contains no numbers, it's a good trick. Heuristic number 3, either find out the max and then shoot for the max, or follow the old rules of thumb. Oops. Okay. So typical negotiation book will just tell you that most counteroffers are between 10 and 20% higher than the offer that was given. And some really good rules of thumb are that most signing bonuses are going to be around 20% of the base. And it's totally normal to ask for 1.5 to 2 times the equity. So if you're ever wondering, how much should I ask for or how much is reasonable? These are my favorite old faithful benchmarks. And I use them all the time. If you don't know how much to ask for 20% more. Same is true for how much more equity and how much more of signing. And when it comes to the max, if you know the actual bands and where they top out, that's a really good scenario. Sometimes you have to be sneaky because the company doesn't want to give it to you, but it's a perfect situation where you essentially know the answers to the test. So you want to try to get the bands, and it's always worth asking for the bands. Yeah, Josh, that's right. Just ask for double the equity. It's totally normal. Okay. Here's another one. I'm sick and tired having clients who get surprised by this question, okay? Don't be one of those people who get surprised by this question. Remember eBay? I remember eBay. I think I bought some figurines on there once. Anyways, they always had a buy it now price. You got to know your buy it now price. You got to know your answer to what would it take for you to sign the offer today? And they ask this all the time at any point. So you have to be ready all the time. It could be the manager, it could be the skip level, it could be the recruiter. Anybody in the process could ask you this. Just because you know it doesn't mean you share it, but you have to know it. So a situation like that is you may not be ready to commit. So when they ask you this, you might not say it, but in your head, you should always be thinking about what is it going to take for me to get out of the game? How good does it have to be? How good does it have to be for me to leave? And this changes over time. So it's okay if it changes. It should change. Because usually when you start out, you don't really know as much as you do later when you actually end up getting an offer, learning more. Okay. So how people mess up their pushes. So we're going to spend the next couple slides are all about these ideas. Ronnie, because you want to know what a win is for you. You can't, it's a good idea. There's an old song from the 80s. Our friend who's in London will remember the song, maybe, by a guy named Joe Jackson. And it's about, you got to know what you want to get what you want. So as a statement of logic, that's false. That's what Ronnie's suggesting. Hey, I can get what I want because it can just fall into my lap. Sure, but we're playing a game here. Negotiation is a game. And when you're playing a game, it's about strategy. So as a statement of strategy, that's false. It's a good idea to know what you want before you start playing. So that's the idea. And maybe if you do know and you are ready to commit, then you can actually answer that in real time. And that's a best case scenario because the deal is going to get done and they're ready to do it and give you what you want. And if they do give it to you, well, then that's a huge win, So that's the idea. Eric, thank you. I agree. Most people mess up their pushes in this way. So lacking a higher level kind of system or strategy that each push fits into, not being creative at all, losing leverage, not having any tactical empathy, explaining themselves before they need to, having round number divisible by 10 counteroffers, only asking for one single number, writing a whole bunch in their emails, and getting some bad luck on the timing of when they communicate stuff to the other side. Okay, so it's a lot easier to explain this through analogy. So of all the people that I know that start out negotiating, the most tempting idea is to just start swinging for the fences. And I want you all to know, usually you're doing that without really knowing why you're doing that. And it might be better to bat for singles because the bases are already loaded. You can get 3 runs on the board by batting for singles, going 3 for 3, and then you can swing for the fences on your 4th swing. And if you know I'm batting for singles the whole time and then I'm going to swing for the fences, that's better. And it's better to go 4 for 4 than 1 for 4 with 1 home run and 3 strikeouts. So when it comes to a higher level strategy, this is what it would look like. So this is what the people who lack a higher level strategy, this is the idea of what they're missing out on. So before you start pushing, it's good to have a general idea of how much you're going to push, because you don't want to stop pushing and leave so much money on the table. Before you start, you should want to know how much effort you're going to put into this. And before you make this really complicated, this is the most simple, higher level strategy that is out there. Push number 1, a creative first push that contains no number. So we're going to get to that in a sec, but just for now, just trust me, that's a good way to bat for a single, get them to move the offer up. Push number 2 is to say, you know what? I would really like to see an offer closer to blank, bat for another single, get the offer pushed up again, and then push number 3. If you can do blank, I'll sign today. So if you go into the negotiation knowing that you're going to do 3 separate pushes at different times, that's how you can actually maximize compensation as opposed to just coming in and doing it once and getting out of the game early. And if you think that this is being too pushy, I just talked to a candidate the other day who's interviewing at Amazon, and he told the manager, he's like, you know what? I don't want to be on your bad side. I feel like I'm being really pushy about this whole negotiation thing. And the manager said, it's your job to be pushy at the offer stage. So for everybody out there who's an engineer, the person that you're talking to might just think that it's your job to be pushy at the offer stage. That might change the responsibility that you have to yourself just to push, okay? Create a first push, power of the implication, going back to the Sopranos. Okay, so why is this bad? And why is this good? Because if we ask for 200K, we're effectively telling them what it takes for us to get out of this deal, like what we'd be happy with from this deal. But if we can get them to up the offer without telling them what we want the offer to be, then we have successfully upped the offer without losing any more information. So this is the sweet spot to be in. So you can put a data point in front of the good. You could say, hey, I have this other offer of blank. You could say, hey, I found online that engineers like me make blank. But when we say, would it be impossible to meaningfully increase the blank to, number? That means that they can move it up without you having revealed what it would take for you to want to work there. So as our first push here, that creative first push, that's what it looks like. Throw out a data point and then say, would it be impossible to meaningfully increase the base or the total comp or the equity or all three, equity, base, and signing? It can be anything. Okay, another idea, always sunny, absolutely. So another idea. So this is not I don't know if this is, but it's a fallacy that the company has 10 pieces of pizza and you want to get as much as you can and the company's going to lose whatever they give you. It's not that simple. You can expand the amounts of pizza that there is so that both people are more happy, okay? So the idea is the company has several things that they give to employees that cost the company money. Now, let's say something costs the company money, but I don't want it. They don't have to give it to me. They save the cost, and now this amount of pizza has gotten bigger, and they can partition that cost they would have given to me for this thing I don't want and put it towards something that I want, maybe salary, maybe signing. So this is an extreme example, but it happened just last week. I was working with a guy who has really good insurance through his wife. She works at Stanford or something. And he told the company, I don't need the healthcare. So is there any way that we can divert the funds that would have gone into paying for my healthcare to my salary? And they gave him, I think, $18,000 more. So that's not even negotiation. That's just that's something simpler than that. That's just hey, that's math. So yeah, expanding the pie has a lot of potential as an idea. If you really understand the offering the company is giving you before you start negotiating as the bargain, remember? So if we do discovery correctly and we learn about the offer so much, then that's when these little pie expansion opportunities will present themselves to us. And that's when we can bargain better later. That sound is killing me, man. I don't know what that is. All the leverage versus none of the leverage. Don't be like Brad, the guy on the left. I'm sorry if there's any Brads here tonight. I don't know why I said that. So if we say a number first, if we tell them everything about our other interviews, what stage, what companies, all that stuff. If we start bargaining too soon, and if we accept the start date before we ever agree on comp, or if we're unaware of what the company cares about, that's having none of the leverage. We want to not say a number first. We want to be subtly closed about our other interviews and leave the recruiter with nothing actionable. Like Spencer earlier with that Google recruiter, the language is, you know what, I've got a few things right now. I'm having a few conversations with different companies, but nothing solidified yet. I promise I'll let you know before I make any big decisions. What action can they take on that? Nothing. That's the idea. We want to start bargaining after we do discovery. So we get the offer, then we do discovery, then we come up with a strategy, and then we do bargaining. Cool. Subtly deflect on start date. If they bring it up too early, they're just trying to get you to be tricked so you lose leverage. If I know that you're going to start working in October for my company, am I really going to have to go out of my way to get you a whole lot more money as you're negotiating? No, because you've already implicitly told me you're going to join. So we already know it's going to happen, And then if we know about what the company likes about us and why, sometimes we can learn more about our leverage, and that can make us have a lot more confidence in what we ask for and how much we push. So it's good to know what they care about and why they care about it. Tactical empathy. All the engineers out there who think the negotiation is scary. The recruiter, the hiring manager, is so much more scared than you are. They're like, is John going to accept our offer? Is John going to join Google like the last 10 people we offered the job to? Does he like the offer? What does he think? The other side is scared. So if you don't address the fear runs the interaction. And you're costing yourself money. But tactical empathy is how you reach into their head and press the amygdala and deactivate their fear center. And the way that you do that is with words. Words like the simplest way to have empathy and use your language to have empathy is to stop saying the word I. Just say you and say we and say let's. And we're going to learn a tactical empathy technique later about what to do when they say an offer is not negotiable. But for now, just think you, we, and let's. Okay, I know a lot of people who've done this. You know, my price is blank because I'm really good at what I do and I did all this cool stuff and I can do this really fast for you. And just imagine that you have 10 offers. You don't need 10 offers, but just imagine you have 10 offers right now. And another company, they come up to you, company number 11, and they say, hey, here's our offer. What do you think? What are you going to say for what your price is after they say what their offer is? You're just going to say, this is what I'm looking for. You're not going to explain yourself because you know your price. You can act from that same level of power, even if you don't have 10 offers. And really you should, because once again, they spent $30,000 to find you and get you here. So you do have that much power. So this one is going to trick the people who think negotiation is magic because it's actually really simple. So we like odd numbers and we like ranges. If we just ask for 250, what are they most likely to do? Give us 250? No. Say no? No. Give us less than 250. Split the difference. If we ask for a range and they split the difference, they would give us more than what we would have gotten if we just asked for 250. But why is the odd numbers powerful? Don't be scared, Raj. Don't be scared. That's a problem like gravity. You know, that's a problem like gravity. We can't do anything about layoffs. We can't control them. It's like, you know, being mad at the earth for gravity. So just meditate. That's what I do. So yeah, but if you ask for round numbers, it doesn't look like you did as much analysis to get to those numbers. Whereas if you ask for these very specific numbers, it looks like you had a very specific analytical process to get to them. Amazon does this all the time. If anybody's ever gotten a offer from Amazon, you will see. Amazon does this with their offers all the time. They give weird numbers. I had somebody who got $20,000 the other day, and he credited, oh, I don't have it in this deck, but he credited his $20,000 bump just to asking for odd numbers. Stop writing so much, okay? Nice 150 to 200 words. That's a good counteroffer email. That one's simple. Okay. I've actually seen a junior engineer send an email to a VP, and the VP was like, I don't really know if I like this. And he like CC'd the recruiter. He's like, what do we think about this? And it was because it was at like 9:30 at night. So the book Freakonomics showed that judges that decide on death row inmates and whether they should live or die, the judges are more likely to kill them if the judges are hungry. Yeah, so timing matters. So just play the odds here that if you schedule the email to hit their inbox the next morning, that's better than risking it by sending it late. Obviously, if you're having like an intense back and forth, you can still email at the right time. But if it's a one-off, and most negotiations are one-offs, there are not a lot of intense back and forths, just in terms of like a recruiter most times, just schedule it for the next day. Okay, exactly what to say in specific scenarios. This will be scary, but I promise you all it's the best thing you can do. When you get an offer, the best thing that you can say is, it's lower than I was expecting. Or, it's lower than I was expecting, but it's in the ballpark of a good starting point. Now, if this is scary, remember, on the offer call, you have a whole call. The whole call is 100%. This part of the call is maybe less than 5%. So for 95% of the call, we're building up every part of the opportunity that's not money. The team, the tech, the product, the process. We love it. We're so grateful, blah, 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 blah. And then they give you the numbers and they say, what do you think? You know what, it's lower than I was expecting, but it's in the ballpark of a good starting point. The other day, I had a client who he said this, and the company came back to him the next day and increased his salary by $20,000 and added a $15,000 signing bonus. He didn't even make a counter offer, and they increased his offer by $35,000. I need you all to realize the power of that statement. The company is doing his job for him. They're like his little automated systems that are acting on his behalf for his will. It's amazing. So this is a scary thing. I have to practice this with clients for like sometimes a half hour till they'll do it, but it's absolute genius if you, for the rest of the offer call, build up the parts of the offer that aren't money. Okay, so this is a new thing that's becoming more common. So a company will tell you, hey, here's the offer. And just to let you know, it's not negotiable. So I believe this happens because Amazon made a policy last year and then other companies started copying them. So this is our technique for how we get around this. And I did this with a guy who was negotiating with Facebook last year, and we ended up getting 17% more from Facebook. Senior engineer, so excuse me, 17% was a lot. And they just gave him the offer and they're like, this is the best we can do, by the way. So here's the technique. Imagine the worst thing that they can say about you, and then label the negative in your opening line preemptively and with empathy. You probably think I'm being greedy because you said this isn't negotiable. So remember our poll question from the beginning. For the people that said, what do you do when they say it isn't negotiable? You address what they said, and then you change your tactics. You probably think I'm being blank. What else can we put in the blank? Yeah, David, you're saying the F word. In negotiation, fair is the F word. Fair is a very loaded word. Whenever you hear somebody say they give you a fair offer, that's emotional manipulation. But that's a whole other thing. What other thing can we put in the blank here? What might the other side be thinking about us? What are the worst things they could be thinking about us? Being difficult. Yeah, perfect. You might think I'm being difficult because you said this isn't negotiable. Now, unreasonable. Yeah. Okay. Sometimes the engineers that I explain this to, they say, wait, if I say you might think I'm being unreasonable, aren't they going to think that I'm unreasonable? No. By addressing a negative, you diffuse the negative. By addressing a positive, you encourage the positive. This is how the brain works. And if you want to see more evidence, here we go. I know everything he's not to say against me. I am white. I am a fucking punk. I do live in the trailer with my mom. And I don't know if you've seen the movie, but it goes on to at 4:32. Fuck this battle. I don't want to win. I'm outie. Here, tell these people something they don't know about me. What is Papa Doc supposed to do? What is Papa Doc supposed to do? B Rabbit has said every possible thing that's negative that Papa Doc could say about him, and Papa Doc has nothing left to say. The accusation audit leaves people with nothing negative left to say. Try it, use it. It makes people trust you, and you're more likely to get what you want. You might think I'm being blank because you said blank. Okay, this is a different scenario. When they say it's not negotiable and you've already been negotiating with them, this is an entirely different thing. You could still use the accusation audit anytime, but the technique is a little bit different here. So just remember, as a good lesson here, bans are not laws. They're just suggestions. Going over the band is a simple process. Anytime you hear a recruiter say, you know what, I'm fighting with the manager on this, I'm trying really hard, I just can't seem to convince the manager, they're lying. They're lying. Anytime you hear somebody saying, I'm spending all this effort to try to convince the manager, they haven't even talked to the manager. So I just learned the other day from an Amazon recruiter who, unfortunately for them, told one of my clients that it actually takes 5 minutes to submit an exception to go above the band. And the person who looks at it to approve it doesn't even look at it very intensely. So getting the exception is actually easy, but convincing the person to do the exception is actually hard. So since that's true, how can we go around the dynamics of the situation and get what we want? Well, it's really simple. We're talking to the wrong person. So if we talk to the hiring manager instead, and we want to clarify, hey, do you ever talk to candidates about money? Because in some organizations they don't, and in some organizations they do. But as long as you get that out of the way and they say yes, then you can just start negotiating with the source. You don't have to worry about this process of the escalating. Not of the escalating, but of the exceptions being complicated by a recruiter who just doesn't want to do it. Okay. So a little bit about what we're offering. We could really care less if we get people $15,000 more. What we're trying to do is get people more of what they want. And to be frank, get people more than they would have gotten if they had they not worked with us. So the way that it works here is that if you don't get at least 15K, you don't pay anything. And if you get at least 15K, then it costs $3,000. And we've helped a bunch of people so far. We've got really good data on how much we're helping them and how much more they're getting. But I think the biggest thing here is that we really don't care about what it takes to get you to the end zone. We care about getting you to the end zone. So that's why we price it the way we do. There are competing services that would charge you for every bit of output that the service spends. We're not like that. We'll do as many calls as you want to feel comfortable. We'll write as many emails as you'd like us to write for you, because once again, we're trying to get you to what you want rather than having you pay for each thing we do for you to get you there. So the most common question about our service is when people should sign up. So that one's actually really simple. When an offer is coming, that's the time to sign up for the service. So yeah, I hope you all enjoyed today's session, and let's do some Q&A. Okay. Sam, how likely is an offer to be rescinded if I go hard on my negotiation? So what's 2 divided by 2,000? 0.001%. If a recruiter insists that you name the first number after exhausting all the lines, do you walk away, even if they might serve as a useful BATNA? No. So that's a good question. So if a recruiter insists that you name the first number, you don't need to walk away. You just need to hold your position. So this happens with Amazon all the time. So Amazon actually gives really good offers. I'll give you an example. One of my clients right now has an offer from Verkada, and they do want to join Verkada. And they also have an offer from Amazon, okay? But guess what? Amazon backloads their stock. They give a ton of cash as a weird bonus during your first year and your second year. So Amazon's offers are cash heavy. So remember what we said earlier? If it doesn't help us, then don't share it. When we're negotiating with Verkada, since their offer has less cash, we position the offer of Amazon as having more cash, and then we're able to get more cash from Verkada. Whereas if we compared Amazon has a similar total comp to Verkada, then if we asked Verkada for more total comp, it wouldn't really be as good of a play. So Tyler, you're getting at the right thing here. They will be good BATNAs. So that's why you want to keep them. So just don't give in. And we have some good language in a few docs, and I'll send it out in the Discord after. But there are ways to not say a number and improve the other person's opinion of you. And that's the basic idea. Are the negotiations any different now that companies are laying off, freezing, and hiring? No. No, Bryant, I love that question. For anybody that doesn't know Bryant is the Kim K of software engineers, by the way. He has like 1 million followers on LinkedIn, and I love Bryant's work. But no, negotiations are not any different now just because of the macroeconomic headwinds. Absolutely not. You can't control any of that, and all of you are engineers, so you are all the leaders of the free world. And if you're a senior engineer, companies are so desperate for talent right now for senior engineers, you literally have your pick of the litter. So that is more leverage than some companies that are changing their hiring things. So no, it changes nothing. Can I negotiate without having other offers? Yeah, you can. What is another offer? Another offer is a data point, and it's a threat that you wouldn't join the company that gave you an offer. So the question then becomes, Mohammed, how can you come up with a data point, and how can you come up with a threat to not joining the company? And that's that word BATNA, the best alternative to a negotiated agreement. So a BATNA basically just means an alternative route you could take without joining the company. So let's say, grad school is the easiest one. If I got an offer from Stripe, I could, use data that I found online and say, hey, Stripe, here's what your offer is, and here's what I can see online engineers like me make. That's the data. And I could say, you know what? I told myself if I didn't hit my target of whatever, 350K, then I was just going to go back to grad school and become an AI researcher. If it's attractive to you, then it's a real threat. So that's all you need is an alternative. Same thing, AJ. So for Mohammed and AJ, this was actually the most common question we had from our first webinar. And I made a pretty good slide deck for this. It's called Inverted Negotiation, How to Negotiate with Only One Offer. So I will send that out in the Discord after we're done. And yeah, BATNA, best alternative to negotiated agreement. It's also in that slide deck, Eric, the inverted negotiation, which I'll send out in the Discord, so you'll see. How to answer question from recruiter asking for salary expectation. Well, I'm also going to send this out in the Discord if you're getting the theme here, because a lot of these questions are great, but we knew you guys were going to ask these. So if we put the link to the Discord in the chat, that's good for now. And then in the meantime, if I pull up the pre-offer, this is how we talk to companies about money. And I'm going to send this to you in the Discord. Push number one from the recruiter. What are your comp expectations? I'm glad you asked. Compensation is not my top priority. I'm most concerned with finding the right fit. For me, it's about learning and growth. Fine, that's great, but can you just give me a range? Well, Apple has more expertise than I do about market rates for engineers with my experience. I trust Apple will make a competitive offer. Well, would it just kill you to give me a number? Apple's really exciting because of the team fit. If you make me your best offer, I promise I'll give it my best consideration. That line cannot be rebutted. That's why that line's so good. Okay. What if the offer is lower than your current salary? Yeah, Sam, that's a really good question. Like, hey, this is to be frank, this offer is a bit disappointing. It's lower than what I was expecting. That's a great way to handle that one. And it doesn't necessarily hurt at that point to say it's less than what I'm making now, but still you don't want to tell them what you're making now. So I would just say at the very least, I would try out that line of, this is a bit disappointing because this is a lot lower than I was expecting, and start the conversation there. When they give, yes, Bergra, that's exactly right. 99% of the time, it is a bluff, especially if the company's big. Think about that for a second. Does Google need an engineer tomorrow? No. Nothing about their bottom line is going to be affected by getting an engineer tomorrow or not. So 99% of the time, a tight deadline is a bluff. The only times it's not is if the company has limited headcount, and those are usually situations with smaller companies. How should we react when a recruiter says to the recruiter, yeah, well, this is happening right now, Uber. This is a great question. My thing here is I liked what you were saying. Since you've done a really good job of setting up your job search such that all of your really good on-sites are coming up really soon, and you're going to get at least one offer, then you can just don't think about the low ball too much, knowing that you're going to get other stuff. And when you get the low ball, say that this is lower than I was expecting. Just remember, last week I helped somebody double the bonus they got from Amazon and double the amount of stock that they got from Amazon. Okay. Don't get thrown off by initial offers. They don't mean anything. Often they're literally a starting point from which you can work. And sometimes companies will give you half of what they're willing to give you in the initial offer, evidenced by that person doubling their bonus and doubling their stock just last week. Is the amount of vacation and personal, people actually do negotiate this. Yeah, I've had 2 clients who negotiate vacation time. So remember, the idea is this: get the offer, do discovery. That just means ask questions, be a sponge, learn. Then come up with a strategy. Then bargain. So before you bargain, if you determine that, hey, it's important to me to get more personal time off or more vacation time, then that's the perfect scenario in which you would be able to put that on the table as a bargaining chip before you start bargaining in your strategy. Know that that's what you're looking for. Seeking suggestions when I only have one offer. Should I totally? Yeah. You don't want to tell them you only have one offer. You never tell them that. You never say, oh, I only have one offer. Go back to the heuristics. Samuel, if it doesn't help you, then don't share it. If a company says, hey, do you only have one offer? It doesn't help us to answer that. So you got to get good at being positively vague. Yeah, like I said, I have a few conversations with different companies right now, and, I'll let you know if anything changes or before I make any big decisions. And remember, if you have a BATNA without another offer, then another offer isn't that important, but that's okay. Yes, avoid sharing. Absolutely. Deflect by being positively vague. Should I negotiate an offer if I'm still waiting to hear back from another company? So I'm not sure if I'll end up. The answer is always yes, Mabel. always negotiate. Yes. What factors should we consider when negotiating with an early stage? Typical things are probably if we have another offer from a big company, the Series A and Series B companies can get kind of scared off by that. So we want to frame, anytime we have counter offers, we want to frame them. We have to be more strategic with our framing when we're negotiating with Series A and Series B companies. We don't want to scare them off by saying how much, total comp we're getting from Google. That would be kind of stupid. So if I was negotiating with a Series A or a Series B company, I would start with just the salary, because that probably isn't that outrageous, even if I had another offer from a big company. And I just don't want to, I want to actually say some counterintuitive advice here. I don't want to tell them that I have an offer from Google if it's a Series A or Series B company. I just want to say I have an offer from a tech company. What are some strategies for receiving exploding offers and continue to interview at other places? The worst case scenario is that you renege on an offer that you already signed. The best case scenario is you tell them when you're going to decide before they can give you an exploding offer. So to proactively control the time problem at the onsite, say, hey, recruiter, had a great time. If you all end up moving forward, here's when I'm going to be here's when I'm going to be collecting offers, and then I'm going to make a decision shortly thereafter. If an offer is a hard, Carl, so Aileen's blog post has my favorite language for how to push back. So the short answer is push back. And if you come to the Discord, we'll share the blog. You know what, Daniel? I just learned last year, I always thought that signing bonus was included in total comp, but I've met people that don't include it. So, like everything else in life, it's just best to clarify. Some people do count it and some people don't, but I think most people do. What if their first number is much lower than you expected, 30%? So 30% or so lower. It's okay to say that, VB. Imagine if you're on companies don't know what to pay you. You all need to listen. Companies do not know what to pay you. They have no idea. And so if they're 30% off, doesn't it help them to know that? Absolutely, because they want to hire the best talent. So sharing that wouldn't be ridiculous. Sharing that would actually be adding value to them knowing what it takes to get top talent. So there's a world in which you would share that. You could soften it by adding little niceties in front of it and behind it, but that's what I would say. Yeah, Imad, we're gonna send out that inverted negotiation slide deck, but the answer is have a BATNA and show some data points. Mohammed, you have to get data that shows how you've contributed to the bottom line. So if you've ever written a resume before, what you're doing is you're essentially having accomplishment statements that show the impact and the metrics of the work that you've done. And shameless plug, I have a interviewing guide for Amazon coming out in the next couple of weeks through interviewing.io. In this interviewing guide for Amazon, it's called the Software Engineer's Guide to the Amazon LP Interview. It actually gives you a framework to find metrics and impact. So if you find metrics and impact, you can demonstrate how much you've contributed to the bottom line. And then that would be rationale for why you deserve more compensation that's in line with what you've contributed. So that's what you can do, Mohammed. Check out the guide, which comes out in the newsletter in the next couple of weeks, and then get metrics and impact and show your employer.